Good evening, everybody. Pop in. It's like I have angel rays coming into my live show tonight. The sun is just starting to go down. Just pop in, say hi. If you've never popped into one of my lives before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. It is Sunday. It is the end of the work week, the week or the job that actually puts the roof over my head. So I'm now getting a couple of days off, and I am pretty excited about that. Tomorrow is a sister's birthday, so I'm excited to hang out with my family tomorrow, spend a little time with them. I don't spend as much time with my sisters. Well, it's a little strange that I say that. I've been spending more and more time with my sister Alice. We've been becoming pretty good friends as of lately, and she was my second youngest sister. She is 6 or 7 years younger than I am, and we never did hang out very much together. There was a short span in my young adulthood when I used to work at the bars, the nightclubs, and I used to hang out with some really wonderful, fun, exciting people. And, my sister, I think, met a couple of people in the group, and we all became a group of good friends for a while where we did hang out quite a bit together. But she just hung out in a group, and then she expanded on that group and made her own friends, her own little cliques and stuff. And she went one way and I went the other way. And again, we had different lives, right? She wanted to get married. She wanted to have kids. And me, myself, I never had children. I did get married, and it was an amazing, amazing marriage to a wonderful, sweet, beautiful man who treated me like a queen. He was absolutely amazing, right? But the poor guy, he couldn't even remember. He couldn't even remember garbage day 4. That was my sister just messaging me. I better turn my thing down because that's going to come up on my computer. I'm just going to say no, reply. I'm doing my live show. Yeah. Um, yeah. So, and this is actually the sister I was just talking about, how we've become good friends. And she made a roast beef for dinner tonight, and she just invited me for dinner. But I am here with you every Sunday night. We hang out together. We have an amazing time. Hello, Andrew. Hello, Owen. Thank you so much for you guys who've never met my moderators here. These are two of my main moderators who show up here every Sunday night and have been doing this for years alongside me. I absolutely love them to death, and let's see what they've got to say. Oh, really? Right? But the thing is, as we become adults, age doesn't seem to be much of a factor. Even my husband was 10 years younger than I was. When I first met my husband, I think he was 18 years old and I was 29. We got married. I think he just turned 20, or he was just turning 20. And no, he had just turned 20, like a week or two before we got married. He had just turned 20, and I had just turned 30 years old. Our birthdays were in the same months, except that he was a Scorpio and I was a Libra, because the 23rd is actually the day that you move into the next astrological sign. And yeah, in actuality, I was 15 minutes. If I was born 15 minutes later, I would have been a Scorpio. For sure, I would have been a Scorpio. But I know it is, you guys. It almost looks like I have a rainbow here, doesn't it? It's just the sun is going down right now, and I don't have much control over the lighting tonight because, well, number one, I don't put curtains on my windows. I like bright open windows, and it is the season. You can tell actually the days are getting shorter now that we're actually getting this kind of lighting. It's almost like angel lighting, I would say, when we came in. But doesn't this right here, let me see, right here, doesn't it look like a rainbow, right? It's kind of neat. It won't last long, you guys. The sun will be going down quite shortly, and then I'll have to turn on a light for us to actually have a conversation. 209 books, Andrew? Is that how many books you have? Holy moly. And is that maybe half your collection, or is that just a fraction of your collection? Oh my goodness. I think I have about 100 books. Actually, the book I'm reading right now is called The Land of the Painted Caves. It's based in archaeology, anthropology. It's a perspective about evolution, right? And it's a set of books that I've been reading for decades. And this was the last book that I hadn't read. And it actually came into the store about maybe a month ago. I'm not a fast reader. I like video. I'm a visual learner, and I take in a lot of content online. And I have slowed down a little bit in the actual reading. For the most part, that happened because, there was a time when I couldn't afford proper prescriptions in my glasses. My glasses, as my eyes were changing, I was consistently needing different prescriptions. And because I wasn't reading them, even reading a chapter would strain my eyes. But we all know that life was starting to sort out in the past couple of years. And last year I was able to get my prescription. Was it last year? Yeah, about a year and a half ago, I was able to finally get my prescription changed. And I had a nice set of glasses, but silly me, I left them in the bathroom sink and the hot water was running. And I went and had my shower. When I got out of the shower, I had totally destroyed the protective coating on the glasses, and I couldn't get that coating off for the life of me. And I went quite a while. I think I went a good 6 months without proper reading glasses. That was a tough year. Every once in a while, we talk about that year. I know Owen was here during that year. I know Andrew was here during that year. And that was a crazy year, wasn't it? Do you remember when I was doing my live shows and they had cut off my electricity and I had run an electrical cord out into the hallway of my apartment? I actually didn't even think that the thermostat in my apartment was run on electricity, so I didn't even have any heat. And it was like minus 40 outside, and I couldn't leave my hallway door open because I was doing my live shows and I didn't want everybody to hear my live shows. So I actually had a toaster and I ran the electrical cord from the hall. Do you guys remember this? I ran the electrical cord from the hallway into my apartment, put on a big blanket all around me, and I stuck the toaster underneath by my feet and I turned the toaster on, and that's how I stayed warm. It was a tough. Now that lasted, I can't remember, but I think that was almost a week, but it was the coldest part of the year. It was like minus 40 Celsius outside. It was a very, very scary time for me. And not only was it a scary time for me, but I remember I wasn't working at the time. And because the coronavirus had started, oh no, it wasn't, the coronavirus hadn't even started. I wasn't working and I was looking for a job, and I had just gotten myself into a mentorship program. And thank goodness for that mentorship program. It was a lifesaver for sure. Kindnesses, it was a prime example of kindness. Oh, really? You didn't realize how bad that was? Andrew, don't you remember you sent me grocery money? That's it. Yeah, Andrew actually sent me grocery money. I never asked for it or anything. It just showed up in the mailbox, and it couldn't have come at the most perfect time. It actually helped me when I was trying to get my foot. But maybe I did hide it a little bit. A little bit of that shame maybe was in me, and maybe a little bit of embarrassment that I had gotten myself in that situation. That maybe I didn't make it as bad as it actually was, because it was a very scary time. I had the landlord threatening to lock the door, and yet on me, and all my possessions were in the house. My cat was in there. I had no money, right? I was going through a mentorship program, and then we got locked down for coronavirus. And then there was no way for me to get into my job training. And then the mentorship program started up again. Thank goodness it started up again. And throughout the entire coronavirus, throughout that entire span, even right up to now, I've been working pretty much full time. I've been able, when other businesses were shut down, I know Andrew kept working throughout the entire coronavirus too. But it was, yeah, it was a very, very bad situation. Really? Oh my goodness, Andrew, I don't I that's hard for me to believe that I didn't show how bad it really was, because I was very frightened. Even when I was in that program, the landlord of I had no way of paying my rent. Even when I was going into job training, we actually had to work for free. I couldn't even bring in any kind of money, and that's why my utilities got cut off. I had no groceries. Remember, at that time I had started working on myself too, and I in my lessons I had understood what had happened to me, and I thought it really important. And those people who were helping me out in those situations, my sister Tracy, she was helping me out financially. Yeah, when I couldn't pay my bills, remember she took my car away from me. I lost my car. Uh, she took away all that help when she would help me out with groceries and help me pay my bills and stuff. She just, yeah, she shut those funds off immediately, and I was okay with that, because it took a lot of that guilt and shame off of me, because I felt very guilty. I felt very shameful of myself, not only for getting myself in that situation, right? And I look at it now and I think, oh my goodness, I was doing everything I possibly could to save literally my life, right? And but I still had to have groceries. I still had to have my rent paid. I still had to have my bills paid. And my sister was offering to do that, but when she did that, it came with consequences. It came with lectures. It came with making me feel that guilt and shame for the situation that I was, and it put me deeper, deeper, deeper into that sadness that I was in. Yeah, it was. I'm surprised. I'm very surprised that you guys didn't realize, and maybe that was in the beginning of my journey. Now I'm fairly honest about the situations that I get myself in, right? And but maybe at that time, because it was the beginning of this journey that I was on, that maybe I wasn't as honest about, because lots of us, we put masks on. We don't want people to feel sorry. Sometimes we don't want people to feel pity for us. Again, maybe it was that guilt and shame of the situation I had gotten myself into. But Andrew, you must have caught on to something. Otherwise, you wouldn't have sent me that grocery money. You wouldn't have sent me that little bit of money that you yourself needed because you were also taking care of your brother and your own household at that time. I remember that, Andrew. But yeah, that was probably what was helping. Even when you say that I was very in high spirits and stuff, that I was in good spirits, that's that's my nature, right? In all truth, that's my nature, because I realize if there's nothing I can do about it, I'm not somebody who cries over spilt milk. So I would have naturally made the best of my circumstances, no matter what the circumstances I was in. I'm very surprised that you say that, Andrew. I thought you and Owen at the the very See, that's the thing, Owen. Right? That wasn't my intent. I'm very surprised. Like, I'm very surprised, Owen and Andrew both, that you didn't know what a bad situation I was in. Is that what stress and anxiety is? Like, I was under a lot of stress at the time, but it isn't my nature to have anxiety, right? I was very sad at the same time because, my relationship with my sister was broken up. But it had nothing to do with the money. It had, right? Because it actually made me feel better. I actually felt much better because I was trying to snap that relationship a little bit because I felt I was under somebody else's control and I wanted to be my own leader. I didn't want somebody to feel like they were in control of my life or they were the leader or they had to help me or anything. I took Andrew's gift because I felt it truly, truly was a gift to help me out because it was totally unexpected. I had never asked for any help. And actually, I don't think I even mentioned to any of you guys here on my live show, if you come to think of it. I wrote Andrew, I messaged Andrew, and, I explained to him the gratefulness because at the same time he was helping me. I knew, because he confided in me, I knew that he was helping somebody else on our crew here with the situation that they were in. But it was totally unexpected because I never asked for it. I never expected it, and I just took it as a kindness, right? And it truly was a kindness. Really, that's amazing, Andrew, that you say that. And really, Owen, yeah, I'm really quite amazed because of all people in the whole world that I thought that you two would have seen through that. And it's funny because I thought that you guys knew, right? Did you guys know about the toaster situation, that I had the toaster? Well, I think the people on my Instagram, right? I think the people on my Instagram understood, and because I couldn't hide it, right? Because I was sitting there and I had the blanket like a teepee over the toaster because literally it was this toaster that was plugged into an extension cord that was plugged out in the hallway of the apartment block. And I remember how embarrassed I was when the caretaker came up and freaked on me for doing that, right? And he knew the situation that I was in because I hadn't paid my rent yet, right? Oh, yeah. And the landlord was sending me letters and trying to phone me. But I had no money. There was absolutely nothing I could do. And because we were in the midst of the coronavirus, I couldn't even search for the apartment because we weren't technically even supposed to be outside except for our necessities, to go to the grocery store to get our necessity. You don't remember the toaster part, Owen? Maybe I'll go back into those videos around that time because I remember around the time, if it was minus 40 Celsius, it must have been in January. It had to have been, or maybe late January when all of this was happening, right? Because I remember I got into the school and there was no coronavirus, but I think a month into our classes starting, then things started to get really scary with the coronavirus. So it must have been in January or February that this happened. So maybe I'll take a look at those videos and see and watch and see if really I did keep it a secret. It's possible I might have, right? But if I did, it was probably out of guilt and shame for the situation that I had gotten myself into. But at the same time, it doesn't answer why Andrew would have sent me some money, right? Like Andrew, like do you remember what it was that put it into your mindset that you should maybe help me out? Was it just an intuition that you had or something about me that made you think that I could use that money? Because that money, it came in at the most perfect time. My sister had just cut me off. I hadn't paid my rent. I hadn't paid any bills. Like, I don't remember. Oh, oh, you didn't understand the emotional aspect. Isn't that strange? That makes me curious because I know I'm a different person now than I was back then. And because that was fairly close into my journey, because I think my life started crashing on me. Oh, my goodness. No, my life started crashing on me months before any of that happened. But that was definitely the big crash. That was definitely the big crash. And I remember I was going into this work job experience because you have to give free work in order for them to have a chance to see what kind of an employee you would make and everything. And I remember I went to work every single day, and I would be afraid that when I got home, that there would be these great big apartment block locks that they put on the people who go behind in their rent. And I was very nervous. I was very scared. And I remember talking to my boss every day. And I remember, did I tell you guys that I had all my possessions? All my most important possessions. I had my passport and all my ID. I had like an emergency pack where it had all my like fresh underclothes and a fresh pair of pants and my makeup is I haven't worn makeup in ever and ever. Sometimes I put on some lipstick, but I don't even wear makeup anymore. But that's how I felt about myself. I was always worried about what people thought of me, and it's very curious that you're talking about that now. Oh, Nancy, that's nice of you to say. But yeah, shoot me a message, Nancy, and I will share it. I will share it on my Instagram. Actually, I see there's a message there. Okay, here's the message. Hello, Cindy. I just wanted to let you know that we are in the sixth day of 93 degrees. This is Seattle. Seattle usually does not get that hot. So that's in the high 30s if you're thinking Celsius, if you're somebody in Canada that's watching my content. So Seattle Housing was ordered to evacuate, oh my goodness, the building I live in because there is no air conditioning. So I'm in a cooling shelter and I only have my phone with me. So tell everyone hello for me tonight. Have a great stream. Oh my goodness, Nancy. Is anybody else in a heat wave? Like, how is everybody else doing? And let's stop talking about the boohoo's or the past boohoo's of Cindy's life, and let me inquire after you guys. 93 degrees. And yes, Nancy lives in the same kind of housing as I do. It's low income housing. And I've been here now. I'm in my second year of living here. Come January, I will have been here for 2 years. And thank goodness, right? 3 days. Oh no, it wasn't 3 days. It was 24 hours before I truly would have lost my apartment because we had gotten a court date. And that's how come I was able to relax in my apartment because I knew that the landlord couldn't do anything to me and in my living situation in that apartment until after the court date. And because the courts actually set the date for 6 weeks ahead of, and they had to give me notice that our court date was 6 weeks. I was actually able to get out of my apartment the very same day that the court date was. Uh, and I remember that January 11th, I moved into this apartment, and that was the day of that court date. And they would have gotten the okay to boot me out because I had no way to pay that rent. I was already almost $2,000 in arrears in my rent at that time. And but I was able to relax because of that court date was set 6 weeks ahead, so I knew my landlord couldn't do anything to me for 6 weeks. And by that time I was able to have a couple of paychecks to put together in order for me to find a place to live. And thank goodness. And again, I'm going to give credit to my sister Alice, the lady who lives upstairs above me. She actually got me into this apartment and we made arrangements so that I could move in that exact same day when the court ruling was going to come in. Now, who's to say? Maybe the court said, okay, she's got a month, right, to live in her apartment before she actually has to go. I don't know what the courts would have said because that day was my moving day and I didn't show up for court. So, but they did get quite a bit of my furniture. Oh my goodness, they did get quite a bit of my furniture. But my brother in law and my sister helped me move in here. And because of that amazing job that I had, I was able to replace anything that I didn't have. And since then, I've been able to replace everything pretty much that needed to be replaced because, I wasn't a well to do person to start with. I didn't have very much to my name. Yeah. But yeah, how is everybody? How is everybody doing? Yeah, here in 100, it got to 100. Yeah, it got to 100 here in Winnipeg also. It got very, very hot. But we've had very stormy weather. So these big thunderstorms and rainstorms that we had would cool it down a little bit here, right? The humidity was very, very bad. Actually, today I have my window open, and this is the longest span that I have had. And I should turn my air conditioner down. The sound should get better right off the hop because I'm turning this down. But yeah, I just realized I had my window on at the same time. So yes, the fresh air coming into my apartment's going to feel very nice tonight. I'll still sleep with the air conditioner and I'll shut the window tonight because it's still quite warm. Last night it was 29 degrees. It was still pretty close to minus 30, so it would have been 90 something if you think Fahrenheit. But today, when I went to work, I actually made a mental notice. Oh my goodness, I should have worn a sweater or a hoodie or something today for work, right? But I hope that Nancy's okay. Yeah, they got her in some kind of community housing right now. So I'm going to assume it's an auditorium or a community center or something. What did she say in her comment here? Um, Let me get into here. Let's see what she said here. Cool. Yeah, she just says a cooling shelter. So I'm going to assume that it is a community center, possibly, maybe a church. But right, but a heat wave. Oh my goodness! I hope she's okay. Oh, and taking care of your mom, Owen. You're like, it's such a hard job. I love my caregivers. I love all of you guys. You guys work so hard and you're so giving of yourself, right? William, how's your friend's son doing? I'm pretty much gonna call him your nephew, right? Because he's such a close member of your community. He is almost like family. How is he doing, William? Let me know. Really? You have a job but no work. And we do have to love the work that we do. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry to hear that, Andrew. I mean, it is a job, but even with the cutbacks, you have to think once their money is cut back, they're going to look at the jobs and say, well, where do we need people, where we don't need. And it's better that you settle into a position before they end your position, right? And especially if you don't have money put away to tie yourself over. They always say that people should have 6 months worth of money put away in order to give yourself a chance to regroup and find something else, right? Oh, that's good. So he came to visit you, William? He came to visit you? I'm an hourly worker also, Andrew. I'm an hourly worker too. But sometimes it's not about the money. I really like the job I have. It's not my dream job, I feel compelled and moved to in the topics that I study, and because I also want to help people, because when I realized through my experiences that how my experiences actually slowed my movement forward, that all those adventures and changes in my life and those relationships and that trauma that I went through growing up and in my adulthood, it's very traumatic to be so different than other people. I was 311 pounds at one time, and it was in my childhood and in my young adulthood, my teenage years, my young adulthood, even in my mid 30s, right? I think I was quite a bit overweight, even though at that point I had already um, probably got control over that true obesity part, but 311 pounds. And that beat on me emotionally, right? So it made me feel very, very different. It made me feel like unacceptable, right? And how I'm trying to think why I came into the hourly worker, right? Ah. Well, 100%, William. You have to make sure that you're taken care of, that you have your needs taken care of. But I know he's like family, and I know if it's possible that you can help him, I know that you will. Right? Sometimes it's just in that, I call it the drummer boy, right? When we don't have anything to give, but we want to give, right? It's like what Owen does for his mother. Like, he doesn't get paid for that. And he's made such sacrifices in his own life, right? Like, he could have gotten married, he could have had children, right? He could have helped to improve his own emotional well-being or financial well-being or his adventure well-being, because I know, right, as much as he loves his mom, that there are things that in his life that he didn't get to do because that time that he spent with his mom, right? But that's that little drummer boy when you think you have nothing to give, right? And the little drummer boy, all he had was that song that he could play on the drum, right? And sometimes that's got to be enough, right? Sometimes you have to be proud of that, right? And that is sacrificial for sure. Oh, I can imagine, Owen, how much you had to sacrifice in that attempt. And especially when you were overcoming your own struggles at the same time, right? Overcoming your own struggles at the same time. Yet you still had that compassion to give. I think about it sometimes. There have been a few times that I thought, because of my relationship with my mother, if my mother had survived that that cancer that she had gotten, right? My mother knew she had cancer. She worked in hospitals all her life, but because she didn't like doctors, right? She didn't do anything about it. Like, even though she knew that she was probably gonna not survive it, she chose not to tell her daughters that she was sick. She purposely hid that she was sick. I think in the end she was ready to go, right? I think in the end that she was ready to go. When my dad died, she kind of deflated. She kind of turned into a different person, right? And you know, that aggressive part of her, even though sometimes in the conversation it would surface in the conversation, that physical part of it, that biting unkindness that she had, right? It was gone. And I think every once in a while I have thought about this on occasion. Would I have been able to take care of my mother? It was talked about in the family, and it was suggested that I should move in with my mother because I was the only one not married. That was the reasoning, right? I was the only one that wasn't married, so I should sacrifice myself to take care of my mother, take care of someone who didn't take care of me. She put a roof over my head, right? Always made sure that there was a roof over my head, but she never truly cared for me. And if and in her living and in her own suffering, right? Sometimes people, they want to bring people down to their levels, right? Because who wants to suffer by themselves? And sometimes we'd love to put that blame of that suffering onto somebody else because, who wants to blame themselves? Who wants to look at their failures, their mistakes, and their misgivings on themselves and on other people? I don't think I ever could have, right? Not even if my mother had paid for a house and when she passed away, that house would come to me. That would be a total betrayal to myself. And that wouldn't have been fair to her, right? Because I would be around her and I would think to myself, would I have ended up treating my mother the way she had treated me? Would have that been a possibility? I'll never know, right? I'll never know if that was a possibility. It was definitely a possibility, but was it something I might have done, right? Like a payback situation. And at the same time, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you because I would be a caregiver, right? I would never followed my own dreams. I would, because I wasn't following my dreams at that time because I was just being dictated to. And if I wasn't being dictated in my actions, I was being dictated to in my emotions, right? Yeah, it wasn't a good situation. I wouldn't have made a good caregiver, right? Now I think it's a different story because I've gotten some lessons along the way, because I study emotions and because I understand what happened. There still wouldn't have been, I don't think, any help for my mother, but it would have been a comfort, right, for her to see that she wasn't alone. But I don't think she would have treated me any differently. And I think in the end, emotionally, I might have been worse off in all truth, right? I have great admiration for the caregivers, and I have a lot of caregivers on my YouTube channel, and I'm very grateful because you provide me lessons every time. Like every time we go live and we have these discussions, right? I get something to contemplate, right? And again, talking about those woes that you guys were totally unaware of. That's amazing. I didn't know that you guys were unaware of what I was going through because it was a very, very scary time for me, right? And my heart goes out to Nancy because Nancy has been taking these hits in her life, different hits, different kinds of hits, different catastrophes, different obstacles, different heartbreaks, right? And yet she just keeps going. She just gets up, and I was kind of talking about this yesterday on my Instagram, that it's kind of like an acceptance of your situation. And possibly this is what Nancy's come to do, is just accept it in her situation. I'm really curious though, if she was able to take all her, because she's a doll collector, right? So I was wondering if she was able to take all her dolls with her, because she wouldn't have been able to take her train set with her. But I don't think it was necessity, because I think after probably the heat wave is over, she would be able to get back to her train set. But these dolls, to her, she's very attached to these dolls now too. So it makes me curious as to whether or not she packed them up and took her with her to what you call it, a cooling center, where she's staying in a cooling center, right? How uncomfortable would that be? Because even though Nancy's in a wheelchair, Nancy is very self sufficient. She's a very self sufficient lady, and I wish her so much, right? I wish that she gets rewarded in kindness after kindness after kindness. And I wish there was some way for these difficulties just to stop. But I also think, and I also say quite often, that, you know, the darkness must truly, truly be afraid of Nancy. That the darkness is constantly throwing something in front of Nancy to deal with, right? And yeah, I myself think Nancy is absolutely, absolutely amazing. Okay, let's look at some of these comments here. Yeah, very sweet of you, right? We do have to take care of our own, but truly, I don't think I would have been a good caregiver for my mother. I would have been a good caregiver for my sister Tracy. I would have loved taking care of my sister, but my sister was also surrounded and living with difficult people that were negatively impacting me, and not only negatively impacting me, but they were negatively impacting her, which in turn got her to negatively impact me also. Uh, in all reality, I have to be honest in saying, when my mother passed away, such a peace came over me, right? And that's the truth. I felt truly free, right? I didn't have to meet expectations. Isn't that strange? She was 72 years old. I had been away from home for 30 years before my mother passed away. And yet, that's how tied I was to her, how knotted I was to my mother, right? Nancy is definitely a trooper, Owen. Definitely. You went to the beach, William? How nice is that? I have not been to the beach in years. I expect that I'll be in a beach next month, because I'm going on my trip next month. I'm pretty excited about that. And I do plan on doing some swimming. I've got my dinghy with me. It's right. I spent this week on my days off rearranging my camping gear, and then bagging up any gear that I won't need, because I won't need my citronella candles. I won't need my bug spray, because in September, well, that's all gone, right? Those issues with the ticks and the mosquitoes, they're not around. So I put all of that stuff away. And then I packed all my crates up. I even started my food bin. I got a canned ham, I got some spam, because I want to make sure that I have everything I need when I leave, so that all I have to worry about, and hopefully I don't even have to worry about that, is that just the gas for the vehicle. And all of that money will be reimbursed to me, because I get credited on my account for my car co-op, and I'll get credited for all the gas that I put in the car, and I'll just put that towards the rental. Renting or not rent, I'm not renting a car. I joined a car co-op, so I guess I'm part owner of this company. But for my 2 week trip, for having this vehicle for 2 weeks, it's going to cost me 290 something dollars. I think $296. Isn't that amazing? And that includes the gas. I have to pay 20 cents a kilometer, but that's nothing, right? The cost of gas is more than 20 cents a kilometer, I think. Oh, Robert's here. Hello, Robert. Nice to see you. I lime cats, or do you love cats? I'm wondering what you're saying there, William. Clarify yourself. Yeah, but 100% Owen. Nancy is definitely a trooper. Yeah, in the next couple of days. Well, tomorrow we're going for a birthday breakfast. I wrapped up some presents for my sister. I got her. She usually goes to the horse races, or she goes gambling. She likes to gamble a little. I haven't gambled in over 3 years. It's been over 3 years. Gambling was my life. I gambled every single day. Sometimes I would go gambling in the morning, soon as the casino would open up or the bar would open up. And then I would gamble right till 2 o'clock in the morning. I would gamble. And it didn't matter. I could win $1,000. But at the end of the night, when I left, I was always poor. I was always in the hole. I am so grateful not to be a gambler anymore, right? So great. I don't even do lottery tickets anymore, right? Right? And I know the universe wants to give me a big one, but it's not going to be through gambling. 100%. I'm not winning no jackpot. I am not winning no lottery ticket or scratch and win or 50-50 draw. I am, right? I just want to earn my money honestly. So I just keep studying, and I understand at some point, right, that I'll be able to help people out to handle their own traumas and their own anxieties. And again, I'm so curious, you guys. Like, I can't believe that you guys didn't know what a stressful situation I was in at that time, because you guys were with me every Sunday. I haven't missed a live show on Sunday night in years and years. So you guys must have been with me. I'm really surprised that you guys didn't know. And I'm surprised I wasn't honest at that time, but I could see maybe how maybe I might have not been, because I was still struggling with guilt and shame, right? Guilt and shame was up there when it came to obstacles in my life. And probably maybe because I knew that, right, those live shows that I did on Sunday night was to cheer us up, because we were all going through difficult times. Nancy was going through a difficult time. I remember Robert was going through a difficult time. William was going through a difficult time. I remember Andrew was going with a difficult time with his brother, and Owen, right? Always taking care of his mother and having difficulties himself. We were all of us were having difficulties, but we were all holding each other up through that time. And sometimes we do that, right? Sometimes we think that it's better that we don't trouble people with our problems. But this is what our platform is for. This is what our Sunday nights are for. And I'm going to turn my air conditioner back on because I got a sweat coming on, because the sun is truly coming down now. It's truly coming down now. Let me have a sip of my Diet Coke here. Nice. I have a cup of coffee. I have a cup of coffee here, but yeah. These are my books, Andrew. All of them are on emotions and sociology, anthropology, history, but mostly they're working in emotions. This is what I have, and then I have my Crystals, my crystals. I'll be getting more crystals, you guys. If any of you would truly love a crystal, let me know. And maybe I can send you one, right? If you believe in crystals. I believe in my crystals. I keep my crystals with me all the time, and I handle my crystal. Isn't that a beautiful crystals? Look at those terminators on that. This is billions of years old, millions of years old, right? Yeah, I love my crystals, and I'm going to get a whole bunch more next month for sure. But what do we got here? We got my crystals. We got all my paintings, but it's too light outside. So all you got is a reflection of the sun right here. You really can't say. This is actually a very famous American artist. He was originally from Germany. But when the United States was first settled, not just explorers explored the country, but they took along because they had to pay for supplies, they had to pay for wages, they had to pay for the indigenous guides that showed them a way and helped keep things peaceful. But they would take surveyors with them, they would take artists with them. And these two paintings that I have here are actually from an artist that did travel with these explorers, right? But everything I have here is secondhand. I actually, my big library cat picture that I won or I bought with a lottery win. I won $1,000 and I wanted to buy something, but because it brought me bad memories, right? Because I remember my mother-in-law, when me and my husband first got engaged, my mother-in-law came from New Brunswick to come and spend some time with her son before he got married. And then she says, "Oh, Cindy, let's go have some lunch." And I remember that we went up and we got this picture, but his mother did not want me to marry her son. She actually tried to talk me out of marrying her son because she thought I was too old for him and not right for him. And me and my husband, we were a very, very good match. We never argued. He was very loving. He filled my needs, and I filled his needs. And yeah, we traveled together in an adventure for 8 years. It was absolutely amazing, right up to the very last day when it wasn't so amazing. And then, I just said go, and that was the end of it. But even the separation was difficult. And the funny thing is, when me and my husband split, when we finally broke up, his mother was my biggest advocate. Like, she was always trying, "Oh, Cindy, is the best thing for you," and right. And I loved my husband, right? And I wanted our marriage to work, but I wasn't going to accept anything less than what I thought I deserved. So I definitely did not want anybody around me who didn't love me. But the funny thing is, I knew how much he loved me, and yet he did this to our marriage anyway. It was a very surreal experience that I went through. It was very heartbreaking, and it was part of that what do you call that spiel where things start turning and going bad. And I did put on a happy face. I put on a happy face for over a year, and then I just let my life crash. Everything. I couldn't hold a job down anymore, and I just would bounce from job to job and job. And up until then, I might have had a half a dozen jobs in my entire life, because I would stay for 10, 15 years at these jobs. But then after my marriage fell apart, you know, after 3, 4 months, I would really, really dislike being in these jobs. And oh, within 6 months, I would have quit. I went through so many jobs. And then at some point, it got to the point where I couldn't even go out and look for a job anymore. That's how low my life got. It's really funny that you guys didn't even recognize any of that. But again, I can understand that, how we don't want to show our hurt because, we're always, even you guys, you're always uplifting each other, even and uplifting me, even though I know there are times that you guys have struggled. Like we've talked about it. We've messaged each other. We have conversations. And I know that you've had struggles, and yet you would never know it on Sunday nights, like ever, right? I have the most amazing, supportive crew right here. But we should promise right now, right? That when we do struggle, I think the only person who was truly honest in this whole aspect was Robert, right? Well, yeah, Robert and Nancy, right? Always let us know when she was struggling. But how are we to know how we can help unless we know that there's a problem? And I think that's part of the big problem that we have in this world these days because everybody's putting on such a face, right? That everything is okay. They wear fancy, expensive clothes, and yet they can't even put milk on their cereal or have a decent meal or live a decent life with a decent roof over their head, and yet they put on those airs that everything is okay, right? I hope I never, don't ever let me be ungenuine again because obviously, beginning this conversation, when I talked to you a little bit about that year that I went through, it was a scary year. My whole life was falling apart, right? My whole life, all my relationships, my sister Tracy, who was my best friend in the whole world, my lifeline, and even our relationship had been severed. I was all by myself. Like I was truly all by myself. And then slowly, drip, 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 right? Through all those lessons that I took online. Why I study emotions, so I could actually figure out what happened to me, right? And again, understand that versatile or volatile relationship that I had with my mother, and come to realize the damage that it done to my self-worth and my self-esteem. And then, some of those relationships that I shouldn't have trauma bonded with, but because, right, I didn't want to be alone, right, and they were willing to have me hang around and help me out, that's exactly what I did. And that wasn't healthy for me too, right? And then falling, right, my whole life crashing, and obviously from our conversation and you guys not knowing through that entire time the situation that I had gone through, I wasn't even genuine. Like I'm just really recognizing right now how bad off I actually was. And thank goodness for all the lessons that I've gotten in the past couple of years, that I've come to realize that, oh my goodness, I cannot wear a mask, right? Because again, how could anybody know that I need help unless I'm genuine, unless, right? Because if you see, remember, I was wearing fancy clothes. I was going to work at this fancy little thrift shop and it wasn't so fancy, but yet I found all those fancy, expensive clothes and I was dressing well. I was wearing makeup and I haven't really worn makeup in a couple of years now. Today I'm not wearing anything, right? And I didn't even wash my hair today. I just pulled it up in a ponytail, just tighten it, right? You get a messy ponytail, but I'm feeling comfortable, right? And I'm feeling happier than I feel happier now than I think I have felt in my entire life, except in possibly those first few years of my marriage, right? Yeah. They were good times, right? My marriage was good times. But I felt with myself at that time too because I had lost all that weight. So I was starting to feel good. But at the same time, I wasn't being genuine, right? I still had problems. I was still covering up, right? But again, sometimes if we're not honest, again, how's anybody supposed to know? How is anybody supposed to offer up some help? I promise, going forward, always genuine. Did I tell you guys that I've been working on this trip? That I paid for all the camping spots, paid almost $300, but I'm going to two different camping spots. Um, Possibly three because I'm going to be coming home through the States. I'm going to go through Sault Ste. Marie. I got all my passport and all my ID. I've got it all packed, right? I could go tomorrow. If you said, okay, tomorrow's the day, I could literally go tomorrow if I wanted to, but everything's booked, and there are a few more things that I want to do. And there's, again, I don't know the camping situation in the States, what provincial parks. I know I'm driving home through a couple of provincial parks. I'm taking highway number 2 all the way up to the interstate in Fargo, North Dakota, or is it Fargo in South Dakota? I think it's North Dakota. Fargo's in North Dakota. And then I'm getting on Highway 75. Yeah, Highway 75, and I'll be taking 75 all the way to the border. So it's going to be nice coming through the States and drive home because I haven't come that way. And I was actually thinking of either stopping in Chicago because I love old architecture. And I know that Winnipeg is referred to as the Chicago of the North because we were the training for architects in the United States, and they based a lot of the architecture that they did here in Winnipeg, and they used that as a training platform in order to design the city of Chicago. So Chicago and Winnipeg has quite a bit the same architecture. And because I love that old limestone work, we have a lot of skyscrapers here. And when you look at them, they call them skyscrapers, but in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they weren't well, they were skyscrapers then, but today you have apartment buildings that are bigger, twice, three times as big as what we considered skyscrapers in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Yeah, so I would love to see Chicago, but I would also love to see Detroit. I heard Detroit is coming back to life. I heard that there are people all over the United States now buying really inexpensive property because the housing market collapsed. They went into their own recession, right? All the abandons in Detroit. I know lots of you are urban explorers because that's how you got introduced to my content. You're urban exploring. That you guys know what happened in Detroit. And so, yeah, people are now buying up those old abandoned buildings and renovating them, right? Now, of course, Detroit was known for car manufacturing. I think the Ford manufacturers are there. There was one other big company that was situated in Detroit. I know Ford was there. I don't know who the other one was, but another company was there. But yeah, when these car manufacturing companies collapsed and dissolved in Detroit, that the whole economy just crashed there, and it became a pretty hopeless situation. But I heard it's coming back. It's turning into a beautiful city again, too, right? So I'd love to see because they could be an example for the rest of the United States because lots of the big cities are crashing now, right? Economically, socially, lots of homelessness, a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety. Where I heard also that we're in a recession, right? That we are truly in a recession right now. So, yeah, my garden is going good. I bought some canning jars, you guys. I'm going to can my beets because I got beets on the go. I'm going to can tomato sauce. I'm going to make tomato sauce and I'm going to can tomato sauce. I have zucchini. I don't have any recipes for canning zucchini, but I'll give the zucchini to anybody in the building who needs it. All my green onion is ready to use right now, and I'm telling people like they need some green onions, just help themselves because I'm the only one growing the green onions, right? My beans, well, I'm assuming I can freeze my beans, right? But if it's in a recession, well, this building, the electricity is included, right? And because it's low income, I think that they will pretty much have to make sure that we are taken care of. I'm so grateful to have found this little apartment. I've been collecting all kinds of little things, knowing that as my situation improves, my life improves, my work improves, that my living situation will also improve. And because I'm manifesting, I get these real estate magazines, you guys. Every Friday at the grocery store, they hand these magazines out and they're properties for sale. Now, I don't look at the houses in the city, but I look at the rural properties, and because I feel like I'm a master manifester, anything interesting, I cut them out, right? I cut out properties that I think that would suit me really well, or things that I would love, or maybe a piece of land, right? And somewheres where I can build a house. But for the most part, they have homes on them already. I would love to live, um, or at least have a piece of property that I could own. I've never owned my own home, never. 60 years old. Right, my husband and I talked about it a few times, but because he was in the military and because he was always being transferred from one city to another, one province to another, that there wasn't really anywhere that we could make roots, right? And then by the time that we started talking about house and children and stuff, and maybe I scared my husband. I never asked my husband, right? Why he thought it might be a good idea that we weren't married, right? He wanted to keep that relationship going, but he didn't want to be married, and that's not how I flow. That's not how I run, and I just told him no. That's it. We're done. If we're not committed, then we're not committed, and it's as simple as that, right? Because I deserved more, and he deserved more, because if that's what he wanted, then that's what he should have. And I was not going to be strung along. I wasn't going to be there for when he was lonely, right? No, I wasn't going to be. That was not how I worked, and at the same time, that would be disrespecting myself, right? So I didn't want any part of that. I just wanted to be done with that. But because we weren't truly done with each other, it was a long process. It was over 10 years before we decided to divorce. After we split, it was 10 years. And then it was almost 10 years right to the day, right? That those papers came in the mail. And I suspect at some point, maybe he wanted to get married at some point, that maybe he met somebody. I had a couple of relationships, not boyfriend girlfriend relationships, but really good friends, really close relationships. I did have a couple of those, but my heart wasn't into marrying again. I was heartbroken, right? Like I wasn't into getting into a committed relationship. I didn't think I would ever get into committed relationship, but it's only after this past couple of years that I've gone through that I'm feeling healthier, that I feel that possibly, that I might be of value, that maybe I could commit to a relationship. But at the same time, right? I'm not second best. I'm not settling for anything less than what I deserve. And I am adamant. I'm definitely adamant about that. And I'm perfectly happy. I am self-sufficient, and I am a bit of a lone wolf, and I do like my alone time. And oh, this weekend, you guys, screaming kids. I had a couple of ladies come in nicely. They are very nice, very polite, very courteous, but their children are rambunctious, and that was not the word I used. when they walked in the door and they started fighting over toys and making messes, and I would see their mom somewheres in the store, and I'd be like, where are the kids? And I could be listening, and they're all fighting and screaming and causing a ruckus at the back of the store. But because I'm up at the front of the cash, there was nothing I could do. And yeah, I just I called them Satan's kids, right? Because oh my goodness, those mothers, and I don't blame the moms, because when you have kids that are like that, a whole where their ages are really close together and they're young and they're on an outing and there's toys and stuff. It's like an adventure, right? And at the same time, it's like peace for the mother. The mother could like, oh, go play, go, just go. They're in the building. They know that the kids are going to be okay, and they can do a little bit of shopping and have an enjoyable experience in our store at ourselves. But I tell you, oh my goodness, it a couple of times we were laughing, not laughing at them, but laughing at the situation that, oh, I'm so glad sometimes, right? You miss and think that it would be nice to have kids, right? You know, but then on the other hand, there are some things you don't have to deal with when you don't have children. Screaming babies were never my thing, right? Oh my goodness. I can just feel the hairs on the back of my neck and the headaches coming on. In my whole life, I've never had a headache, but I don't know if I would have been able to say that if I had had children, right? I suspect I would have been a good mom, but I would have been a mom that overcompensated for the job that my own mother had done with me, because I recognized the mistakes my mother had done with me, that I probably would have overcompensated. And my children also might have been a little bit spoiled and a little bit demanding, right? And we know kids, they get born, and what do? They ask their parents for a cell phone. Do you guys realize how expensive a cell phone is? Okay, let's look at the comments here and see what everybody is up to. Okay, let's start at comment number 802. Andrew, 8 o'clock. Oh, no, we saw this one already. Yes, that you were going to look for another job. Good for you, Andrew. It's best to be prepared, right? You're right. There's nothing worse than getting a 360 in your life. And if these thoughts are already coming into your mind, I've learned from my own lessons, my own experience. You have to move with that intuition, because it's something inside of you saying it's time for a change, right? And if you don't make change, right, then life will just kick you in the butt. And if you're not still getting that message, then life will give you a 360 and you'll get spun around. And those spin arounds are not fun, right? Remember what I was talking about, that year I had when my life crashed, right? Was it a year? It was maybe a year and a half it took. My life just totally crashed. And at that time, I was trying to improve my life at the same time. And I think I was managing a little bit, because I wouldn't have come out of that situation if I hadn't improved in my life. I would have just kept going down, down, down. And who knows what would have happened to me. Maybe I would have ended up homeless. I don't know. And I'm grateful not to know that situation. I know also that if I get those feelings, and if I get those nudges, that intuition, those little breadcrumbs in my life, and I don't follow them, if I don't make that movement, that I'll get that big kick, right? That my life will turn into a disaster where I have no choice but to make change, right? Sometimes life offers up the opportunity for us to make the choice ourselves. And we know when we make a decision and we make a choice, change happens, right? And again, change is not always fun, is it? Right? I know I was somebody, especially after my marriage fell apart, I was not somebody who wanted change. I just wanted to just be by myself. be left alone, right? That wasn't healthy for me, right? It's never healthy to escape uh, the truth, right? And that's exactly what I was doing. I was not facing my problems, I was not moving forward. Now I can honestly say that I am moving forward. I still taking baby steps in some aspects of my life because, right, some change is difficult, some change is scary. But if we're getting those nudges and we're getting those ideas and we're getting those thoughts right now, now's the time to make that change, Andrew. And I'm encouraging you, get that resume ready, right? Start getting that. You have lots of qualifications. Any company would be grateful to have you. Your work ethics, right? Your work ethics and your kindness, right? For sure you would get picked up. And I think if you made that effort, that you would get something better than what you had, right? Find something that you love. You'd be amazing in a library, right? I would love to see you in a library. I would love to see you in research, right? But that's your choice. But it's only because I know you, Andrew. I know what you love. I know you're a good researcher. I know you have that analytical mind that, you can search out anything and you've done it for me many, many times. Nancy has that same mindset, right? But we all have our gifts, don't we? Owen's always been here with his heart, always sharing with his heart, right? Robert always sharing with his genuineness and his honesty and his setting his example for the way we actually should live, right? Yeah. William, right? We all stumble, we all make mistakes. Oh my goodness, how many mistakes and how many failures have I had in my life? But I refuse to let life take me down. And William's a survivor, right? And he comes online and he smiles, right? And he adds to the conversation just like everybody else does. Yeah, he's a joy to have online, and I'm grateful for every single one of you guys that come and hang out with me on Sunday nights for sure. Okay. Yeah, and I'm glad to hear about your friend's son there, William. I'm going to call him your nephew because he is almost like a nephew, isn't he? He's part of your family, so I'm glad to hear that he's doing better. Yeah, Owen, I can imagine taking care of your mom, all not a few things that you enjoy, but I bet you some very passionate things at the very least that you had to give up to take care of your mother. Yeah, that's a huge sacrifice, right? Because you get one life, right? Owen is just here in this lifetime, right? And I hope possibly if you believe in the next lifetime that Owen, maybe his name's not going to be Owen. Maybe his name is going to be Gerald or George, right? Nancy. You never know that kindness that you did in this lifetime, that you are gifted for that, and you have the most amazing life in the next lifetime for sure. I'm not sure, Owen, if you're a religious man or something, but you're definitely a kind man, and you do deserve some kindness in your life, 100%. Yeah, I'm going to be on the beach. I'm going to be laying on the beach in a month, you guys. William, and Owen talking about the beach, right? 8:11 commented at 8:11. I'm only a half an hour behind you guys in the comments. But yeah, I barely got any sun. I'm still going for my walks, but for most part, it's evening walks, walking my sister's dog, walking to the store, grocery stores. Uh, um, yeah, going walking to my sister's. Or when I go to do a chore, then I make a point if I'm taking the bus, then I'll walk home. And this past week when I went for a walk, I had to go to the bank and I had to go do some things. So I jumped on a bus and I went and did that. But on my way home, I just walked home. It took me an hour and a half, and all I was doing was I'd walk down the sidewalk and I was touching every single tree, right? just enjoying Mother Nature, enjoying looking at people's gardens, talking to people, right? Looking at people's homes, right? And you can wish, I'm not jealous of people's homes, right? It would be lovely to have my own home, a nice garden, something I could fix up, a nice porch with a, one of those swings that hang on the porch where I could sit, right? And enjoy and have a roof over it. So the big thunderstorms and the big rainstorms that I could sit out on the porch and rock on my swing and just in quiet contemplation, right? Possibly with a friend, have good conversation, right? Yeah. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It's just not happening yet, right? You set your goals and you work to them. In this moment, I'm reverse engineering my trip in September. It's going to be an amazing trip and I'm looking forward to it. I don't mind picking up extra shifts. I'm picking extra shifts up and extra hours at work. I'm I'm trying to be a little bit restrictive in the things that I purchase at work, even though in my mind I'm thinking, oh, I didn't need this and I didn't need this. But if my sister takes it away from me and sells it, right, then it gives me a little bit extra money for my trip, right? And that's a truth. It's a truth. So I'm not going to worry about it too much. Oh, Dave's here. Hi, Dave. Sorry, 8:51. What time is it now? Oh, Dave's okay. I didn't miss you too far behind. Oh, wait, 8:50. 5, 10 minutes ago you popped in. Nice to see you. Nice to see you, Dave. I hope you're having an amazing summer. I know you're at the cottage at the very least. You're with the grandkids, right? Spending time. Did the kids come up this year to visit you? I'd love to know. Ram Dass, right? I listened to a little bit of Ram Dass. I didn't know that you listened to him. Isn't that a beautiful saying, Andrew? We have more in common than we actually speak about, right? He's a very interesting man. I think he might have been somebody that my dad appreciated. My dad loved some of these from this age. Ram Dass, he was a thought leader, very interesting thought leader because he was forward thinking also. And my dad loved those forward thinking thought leaders like Carl Sagan and David Suzuki and oh my goodness, Bob Proctor, you know, people about movement forward. And, you know, I think I inherited some of that love, but I have my own thought leaders that I'm attached to, right? And though I take ideas and thoughts from many different sources, many different thought leaders and stuff, that I do have my favorites, people that I've come to love very much and I love to follow their journey. And a lot of what I'm doing here and studying emotions, because I understand the world's getting difficult. There's a lot of narcissism, a lot of unkindness in the world. And in studying emotions, it helps me better understand, even through my own experiences in my life, right? That that we're all in the same boat. And again, food for thought, right? That sometimes we don't show our true faces, that we have these masks on and we let people think that everything is okay when truly people are truly suffering. And I think the past few years is a clear indicator, isn't it, that we're all in this and if people aren't having problems right now, I think we better look at these people, right? Because everybody's been affected. Everybody's been affected in some way because of the past few years. I heard New York was put into a state of emergency. Is that what it was? Because of the monkeypox. That the monkeypox is in New York and it's become spreading like wildfire in New York, right? Oh my goodness. Yeah, and weren't we just talking about this last week? I think we were just talking about this last week about the monkeypox, and yet now cities in the States are now having a bit of an epidemic going on. Yeah, very interesting. Nancy popped in again. Maybe Nancy hasn't left. Maybe Nancy hasn't left, that she's just sitting there. We were wondering, Nancy, this cooling center that you're in, is it a community center that you're staying in? Yeah, I would be interested to know. We were wondering if maybe it was a church or a community center, what it was. Tracy Lawrence. Tracy Lawrence. Why is that name familiar to me? Why? I'm trying to think. Tracy Lawrence. Who was this person? I have to write it down because after my live show, I'll look into who she was and the song. Tracy is actually the name of one of my sisters. Yeah. I like my name, Cynthia. So in my sisters, guys, I'm Cynthia. The second eldest is Tracy. The third oldest is Alice. That's my sister upstairs. And my youngest sister's name is Carolyn, right? But my mother didn't know how to spell Carolyn. So she spelled it on the birth certificate Caroline. So technically, my sister Carolyn is Caroline. Everybody calls me Cindy. I'm the only one who got a short name. I don't know how I ended up with Cindy. My dad was very adamant. My dad called me Cynthia all the time, but then after a while, after a few years growing up, my dad even started calling me Cindy. Or he'd call me George, right? Because he never had any boys and he always wanted a boy. But he called me Cindy. And then when he called me Cynthia, right? Then I knew I was going to get in trouble for something. My dad never gave us true in trouble. My father never had laid a hand on me. My father never yelled or spoke negatively to me. But he would do this thing where he would bite his tongue, and he'd do that. And I knew he was upset when he did that. And whatever it was, because it was like ESP or something, I would know instantly what I had done wrong. And if I didn't know what I had done wrong, I could imagine something that I did do wrong that he didn't know about, and I would blame it on that 100%. Oh, Nancy. Well, it's nice that you popped in. It was beautiful that you popped in, and we know that you have. Okay, I'll check my Instagram messages again. I don't know where my phone is. Where did I put my phone? There it is. Nancy sent another message, you guys. So let's see what Nancy's message is before we go. Uh Instagram. She's always messages me on Instagram. Any one of you guys, like anytime you guys want to talk, Robert, Owen, Andrew, Dave, right? Any of you guys want to talk to me, William messages me every once in a while on Instagram. Anytime you want to talk, come and find me. You can get me through Facebook too. I don't go into my Facebook very often, but sometimes the messages pop up that I have a notification on my Facebook. So you could try on Facebook, but for the most part, you have to get a hold of me through Twitter. You have to get a hold of me through Instagram, or if you have my email address, right? Now I'm happy to give you my email address because I love you guys all. Because I'm happy to be an ear for you guys. You guys are an ear for me. Every Sunday night, you guys are an ear for me. Okay, here's Nancy again. Oh, I forgot to tell you. I have only what's on my body for clothes and my phone. I don't have any. Oh, she has no medical supplies, my trains, or my dolls. I miss them, lol. But I need my supplies, so I'm hoping somebody will allow me to come and get them and come back to the cooling center which is a community center. So she is in a community center. I hope this heat wave ends soon. I hope it rains and cools off right away so that you can get home. Here in the building I live, I also live in a complex, a low income complex, but we have community centers in this building itself. And when it does get really hot, they unlock the doors so the tenants can just take their cats and go down into the community center and sit there and cool off, right? And go back into their apartments in the evening when it starts to cool off, right? Yeah. You guys, I hope everybody has an amazing week. Again, if any one of you want to give me an email, see, Robert, that's exactly right. And that's epigenetics. And even though that wasn't your experience, that trauma is in your system because maybe your mother had trauma while she was pregnant with you. Maybe she had a little postpartum depression. And again, the drinking doesn't help at all. And having hard parents. Robert, I know about having hard parents. My mother was a very hard parent, right? But I am very grateful that I was able to have my father, who was the most amazing parent. He was the most amazing friend for me. My father let me know in every aspect of our relationship how important I was, how much I was loved, right? And I am grateful for that because if I didn't have that, there would have been no hope for me. There's true. We all need to know that we're cared for. We all need to know that we are loved 100%. My heart goes to you. Robert, message me. I would love to talk to you, right? And because I take these lessons and because I've been overcoming, right, some of these childhood traumas that I've had complex trauma, right, from my childhood and through some of my own choices, but some things that were projected on me through unkindnesses too, right? I had problems. But again, it's that honesty. And thank you so much, Robert, for being so honest and genuine, right? And sharing that. Because when you do that, when you are genuine and you share that, you're giving somebody else to be genuine. You're giving them permission, right, to be genuine and open themselves 100%. Okay, everybody, it's time for Cindy to have something to eat. If you guys want to come hang out with me tomorrow morning, I go live on Instagram every single day. It's a little bit heavier there. We talk mostly about emotions and moving forward and choices. But this is important too, right? To help each other, support each other, lighten the load off each other. But I promise you guys, I'm going to be genuine, right? Through my experiences moving forward. I had no idea that I was hiding all those problems I was having a year and a half ago. You guys would have been much more bigger support to me, right? When I needed it, if you had guys realized what I was truly going through. And again, if you guys are going through anything, email me, message me. Okay, everybody. I'll see you next Sunday. And I hope everybody has a great week. Take care. Bye bye.